Welcome. This is All Minus One Quick Shots. Folks, there's all kinds of stuff going on today. All kinds of stuff that came out over the weekend, like the super straight movement, which I commend, by the way. That is amazing. I myself am super straight. I identify. I am only attracted to the special made-up word of people who were actually heterosexual at birth, the gender and sex in which they were at birth. And that is only toward women. Of course, there is the Meghan Markle issue, which is just dumb, who cares, where she told Oprah that the royal family was concerned about the baby coming out black. And Meghan Markle looks about as black as snow. I mean, she's essentially very Mediterranean looking. She could be considered, say, maybe Eastern European of some different various persuasions, but she doesn't look like any sort of African person. And I don't think the royal family had that conversation with her. I think that was made up. But the folks that did, essentially commit incest for centuries in order to keep their power within the family line, I mean, let's not put it past them, right? But who cares? They're not in the royal family. And her poor husband. I don't know. I was dumb and young and there once. But in any case, again, who cares? Because there are bigger fish to fry. For instance, we are getting a stimulus check here soon. And what you should understand is this. Now, I spoke about this yesterday. Let's look at this real quick. It's a little tweet from Mr. Dan Crenshaw talking about how the cost of this package for Americans, that is the money they're taking from you that's going to other folks, is larger than the sum you're getting back, which means you're not getting anything. And he makes the joke that Biden's no leprechaun, because of course there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But more importantly than this right here, other than them pretending like they're giving you money, which they're not, they're inflating your money. Now, I mentioned this yesterday. I've mentioned it plenty of times. Here is the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And here is their announcements. And so it will extend Paycheck Protection Program liquidity facility, or PPPLF, by 3 months. And they'll just do it again. So this hurts us financially, as well as all these other things that are not listed here going on. Like, these are just little issued enforcement action, blah, blah, blah. But like this thing right here, the 2021 Federal Reserve Note Print Order. The Board of Governors, as the issuing authority for the Federal Reserve notes, approved and submitted its fiscal year 2021 order that the U.S. Treasury Department Bureau of Engraving and Printing on August 14th, 2020, the fiscal year 2021, that's how it runs, right, is heavily influenced by the pandemic and has experienced unprecedented demand for currency. Well, what they should do is actually not print anything and not artificially throw the currency in, and that would actually help stabilize the economy, believe it or not. I know it's counterintuitive to the Keynesian, crazy, socialistic, left-leaning economics that we use, but the reality is, if they didn't print money, the money that was out there would end up becoming worth more, and goods and services would become more valuable, and they might be harder to attain from people, but people might also stay afloat by those that are wealthy and rich and can go do things, as there are still plenty of those people around. And some of us who are poor would get the hint that we need to start saving our money instead of just buying things for cheap because they're printing it and devaluing our money. Anyways, it says, the print order reflects the board's estimate of net demand for currency from domestic and international customers in 2021, unlike in past years when other major drivers of print order was replaced and unfit notes shredded at the reserve. An increase in net payment drives the 2021 print order. So it says, unlike in past years when the major driver of the print order was replacement of unfit notes. That means that they were taking money out of the economy. Now they are not. They're not taking anything out to replace it. They're just pumping more in. And here's the estimation of the denominations. Oops, sorry about that there. And what it'll end up looking like, a lot of this is purely electronic. It's not actually real money. So here it says U.S. printed more money in 1 month than in 2 centuries. This was last July, and this was before it came to full fruition. In the end, it was about 66%, nearly 70% of all money ever printed since we got off the Bretton Woods standard. This is very, very important. Here from Quartz, it says, poor countries copied America's money printing spree and are paying the price. Of course they are, because they don't have the power. This is February 10th, 2021. And it says the Federal Reserve and other powerful central banks have viewed a let me bigly size this a little bit more. A curiously long bout of low inflation as proof that stimulating the economy through unconventional money printing measures can ease the pain of downturns. Actually, it doesn't. It prolongs them, it makes them worse, and it makes everyone poorer in the end, except for those folks who are ultra wealthy, which at that point, it doesn't really matter. They might lose a few $1,000s in the end, or maybe even tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands. But when you're worth hundreds of millions or billions, it doesn't affect you too much. Those tactics were traditionally considered off limits to less developed economies with unstable politics and weaker currencies. That's just a bunch of nonsense. But the coup changed that as the pandemic spread. A slew of central banks from India to Turkey to South Africa, and the first time delved headlong into their own unconventional monetary policy, so-called quantitative easing. That's just socialist nonsense for devaluing your money. Prioritizing economic support over inflation risk seemed like the right move. Many emerging market central banks initially offset the impact of fleeing foreign investors in rising borrowing costs while helping to lift their stock prices. But risk remain for countries that depend on borrowing in foreign currencies, since that debt can become untenable if their own currencies fall in value. International investors who pile into emerging market currencies can quickly pull back at signs of market distress. Declining currency values can in turn be damaging to emerging markets reliant on foreign imports of basic good like food and fuel. Countries like Turkey, Brazil, Nigeria are all smarting from the pain of food inflation, a major contributor to overall inflation for many emerging markets. Not just them, we are seeing food inflation in the United States as well. We just aren't paying attention to it. Obviously, there's huge inflation in the gas prices currently since Biden's come into office, especially since he has cut off the Keystone pipeline. And here is the consumer index for 2020 in these different nations, and the U.S. apparently dropped. I don't see how that is. We actually calculate this really strangely, and it's not really real. But in any case, I could go on. You guys look this article up because this is a quick shot, and I'm not trying to go through an entire article, but it's in Quartz. But why do I bring it up? I bring it up because this is what the U.S. has to look forward to, and you have to pay attention to how all inflation works in other nations, but for some reason it doesn't work in ours. Of course it works in ours. The difference is that we are propped up and people are willing to buy our currency, take in our currency. The petrodollar is still backing it, but the yuan is going to be the world currency soon unless they come up with something different. We cannot do this. We cannot print all this money and put it out there and not liquidate some of our money that's already been printed, already in circulation. We cannot do that and expect for there not to be grave consequences. And we've been playing this game, folks, for 40 years. Actually, longer than that, but really hardcore for 40 years. And when it first was implemented with Nixon, shortly afterwards, during the Carter administration, we were in mass inflation. We had soaring gas prices for the day. So that brings me to this. There's all kinds of articles, of course, but USA Today, President Biden, COVID-19 stimulus bill is on the brink of becoming law. Here's what where it stands. Well, okay, whatever. This will pass, I'm sure. According to, I think it was Ilhan Omar, the Republicans did a better job getting money to folks, but whatever. This is the reality of your stimulus bill. Okay, now these infographics go around every now and again when we have these. I don't know how accurate this is, but suffice it to say, it's probably accurate enough for a visual. So up here we have the $10,000 in bills. Right? Then we have $100,000 in $100 bills. Okay, that's pretty small, right? Fit that in a backpack, a purse maybe even. Then we have $100 million in $100 bills, and then we're getting to a pallet, and $1 billion. Now, most of us think of $1 billion as a lot, but I could fit that easily into my garage or bedroom or spare bedroom or something like that. This is what $1 trillion looks like in $100 bills. Sorry about that. That's a person standing next to it. That's the pallet, the pallets we just looked at above here. And finally, this is what 1.9 trillion, this is stacked 4 times. This is pallet on top of pallet, looks like. Okay? This is in $100 bills. So this is 1 trillion, this is 1.9 apparently. And this is 2 stacks, right? That's double stack, this is single stack, 1 billion. So I'm doing this so you know, you can visualize. There's the little dude right there. How much money we're spending. And this is roughly 1.2 billion. That's the 8% reserved for the struggling citizen. So that seems like a lot, but 92% goes to foreign entities, foreign entitlements. 92%, folks. Look at that. Look how small that person is. We have to understand this in a visual sense because there's no real way to understand it conceptually in the mind. It is a ton of money, and there's a ton of money not being spent here. The government is stealing from you and giving to others, to other nations. And just as I read to you from that Quartz article, these other nations are inflating. We're going to invest in them, and it's just not going to work out well. It's just not. So we have the super straight stuff. We have the Meghan Markle stuff. Hell, Dr. Seuss was canceled, right? Pepe Le Pew was canceled. Man, I don't even know what else off the top of my head. Oh, Texas and Mississippi, they're not wearing masks right now. There's no lockdowns there anymore. They're Neanderthals, right? I had all these memes actually queued up for the Ends Justify the Memes on Sunday night because we were supposed to have Kit Cope on, but, Kit, I guess, destroyed his phone or something. In any case, so the show was not had, but I did have all these memes. And the point being is that all these things are fun. And it's good to talk about culturally, and we have to understand where we're at culturally and morally and all those things. But the bottom line is we are about to hit an economic superstorm, and it's going to be bad, folks. I hope you are prepared. We're going to do this again, I promise you. There will be another bailout because Biden is talking about having us locked down until 2022. And if this is the case, and the energy policies are going the same, the printing policies are the same, and our foreign aid is the same, this nation will be failing on the economics very, very soon. So you can RIP Dr. Seuss or Pepe Le Pew or, we can talk about Meghan Markle and all that nonsense. Guys, we can talk about being super straight, which I identify as, by the way. And my pronouns are His Royal Majesty and Your Royal Majesty, by the way, if anyone wants to know. But none of those things really matter. They don't really matter when you have to bring barrels of money just to go buy a loaf of bread. In middle America, there's people who are making between $50,000 to let's say $150,000, $200,000 a year. It's pretty generous for middle America, but let's just say that. Um, you're going to be suffering here very soon. I can promise you. It's not going to be good. I hope you know how to trim your spending. I hope you know what are luxuries and what things are necessities. I hope you can implement some discipline. I hope you can find some meaning in things other than consumerism, because if not, you are going to have a very hard time coming very soon. But hey, guys, that's about all I have. With all that said, this has been all minus one quick shots, and I wish you all well.